Happy Monday, everybody. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We got Justin Spears, guest co-hosting. No Kevin again today. He'll be back later this week. But we're talking about Koa Peat dominating at the World Cup, as well as Oscar Rios and what that means for Arizona football. Don't go anywhere. 30 seconds. Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am your host, Damon Fairall. We are here in downtown Phoenix here at lovely PHNX HQ2 in the Studio A, the GOAT studio, if you will. And I got my guy, Justin Spears, Justin, we've really flipped the script, I think, here on Kevin. Just like the way that I was missing all of the early Justin Spears episodes. Now it's all Kevin missing the Justin Spears episodes. Talk about how the turntables.
It's balanced, man. Now it is all balanced. And moving forward, I'm curious to see if you're going to continue to maintain your hot streak, Damon. I'm proud of you for showing up every single time I'm doing a show nowadays, but I expect more out of you in football, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Football season, we're locked in. You know how the summer is. You little Arizona sports in the summer, like baseball gave us a little something to talk about, but for the most part, crickets.
Yeah. But, man, we got lots to talk about today, man. I'm super excited to join here. It's been a while since I've been on. I think it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on the show with you guys. But, yeah, even though it's, late June, now we're going into the month of July, still a lot of stuff to talk about, which we're going to do here in the next hour. So I'm excited to be back on with you, Dame.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, big football news, obviously, with some recruiting stuff that we're going to get into later in the show. But I think we just got to start things off with, kind of the big ticket item, I think, in the Arizona fan base, and that is Koa Peat, who, absolutely just goes out there and dominates at the U19 World Cup, the FIBA World Cup for basketball. America got the group of death, as Kevin coined it, having to play some pretty tough teams, man. I mean, you play Australia in game one, you play France in game two. I believe you have Cameroon, I think, on the agenda for the third and final game of the group here. But obviously Australia and France are teams that could create problems for the United States. And they kind of dominate those games in large part because of Koa Peat and what he goes out there and does. Just looks absolutely phenomenal in the process. We got his stats here from the two games so far. 17 points per game, 60.9 on the field goal percentage. He's averaging a plus minus of 18, which leads the team. And of course, he's only doing it in 23 minutes a game about. So, making the most of those minutes, 17 points in 23 minutes. Justin, how do we feel about Koa Peat coming in next season? Do you think that he will be the best player on the team, right when he steps foot on campus?
I was kind of hesitant to say that Koa Peat was going to be the best player on the team, even after he signed. And, we were wondering, what was, Carter Bryant's thing going to be? Is Carter Bryant going to come back? And I'm imagining the roster without Carter Bryant. I'm like, okay, with Carter Bryant, I mean, he's the best player on the team. Without Carter Bryant, are we going to put those expectations on Koa's shoulders? And honestly, after everything that I have monitored and I have seen, I think it's fair to say that Koa Peat is going to be Arizona's best player next season. And, I'm looking at, some NBA mock drafts for 2026. Some of them have Koa going top 5, top 10. And I'm like, okay, that's way too early to put those kind of expectations on the kid. But everything that I've seen suggests that this guy is going to be a top 10 pick. I mean, this guy can literally do everything. He is I think one of the most underrated aspects to his game is his ability to pass. I think he is a solid passer. Now, is he going to be like the point forward type. I don't know, but I think in pinches he can play that role. I also think, he's a solid rebounder too. And, he's a guy that can also score at multiple levels, but he's also strong enough to where he can get into the lane, rise up and attack the rim and draw contact. So I think that Koa Pete is really a jack of all trades type of players. And I think that he is going to be maybe Arizona's best player. I mean, everything that we've seen in FIBA U19 World Cup. And again, I know this isn't like the World Cup and this isn't like the premier talent around the world, but yet this is still the best up and coming players from all around the world, and Koa Pete is certainly showing his dominance in this event. So if you're an Arizona fan, you really have to be pleased with what you've seen out of Koa Pete.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I've long kind of been saying that I felt that he was going to be the best player on the roster because I just think he is that blue chip one and done type of player that probably Arizona hasn't seen since a DeAndre Ayton was on campus. He reminds me a little bit of Aaron Gordon, just in the way that he's so like physically special. And I think that that's kind of what you were talking about, Justin. With like he's just a grown man already. He's 18 years old. He's a grown man. You know that he's like physically going to be ready to play college basketball. It seems like, from what we hear from what the practices out there, that him and AJ DeBansta were kind of the two standouts from uh, you know, readiness standpoint to kind of take over college basketball and even play in the NBA. Those guys were getting a couple shouts for. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that Koa Pete is so special because he has that mix of obviously he's I feel like mentally he's in a very good spot as a player. Seems to have a very good head on his shoulders, high IQ. But it also just seems like he's just so like physically dominant, like and ready to do that from day one because the reason that he is so good is because team players just can't guard him. And you see that when you're watching him against Australia and France, and defenders are jumping out of the way when he's driving to the rim because he's too much to handle.
And if you're an Arizona fan, you have to be really excited about this because he is showing that confidence before he has even stepped foot on campus. I mean, Koa Pete, he's had every right to be confident, right? He's a McDonald's All American, a 5-star player, a 3-time Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year. But, sometimes as a young player, these guys think, okay, well, I'm pretty good, but I need to show it on this kind of stage, on the world stage. And I think the fact that he is looked so dominant in some cases, right? I mean, I think the last game he had 17 points and 3 rebounds. It wasn't like pure dominance, but hey, in the FIBA U19 World Cup, that's what you like to see out of a player. So I think that Koa is showing the kind of confidence that you would like to see out of an 18-year-old. And what's going to be very interesting is, when Koa, comes to the U of A, and Braden Burries is also on campus too. And I've seen some videos of Braden Burries in practice getting up there, man. The guy looks nice. And I think this is going to be the most different team that Tommy Lloyd has had because ever since Tommy has arrived to Arizona, he has done a nice job of recruiting and bringing in some good freshmen, but those freshmen weren't really the guys. Heck, even Carter Bryant, the dude was a first round pick. He was a lottery pick for crying out loud. And, we didn't see Carter Bryant as a starter. He was a mainstay in the rotation, obviously, and he was coming off the bench. But I think that Carter, he was a great freshman, but Arizona didn't have to rely on him. Now, with a player like a Koa Pete and a Braden Burries, I mean, these are guys that Tommy is going to rely on right away. And I think Koa, with what he's doing with Team USA right now, I think Braden Burries, with what he's doing with the team on campus, I think it's going to really bode well for Arizona against a really tough non-conference schedule because they got some dogs that they got on their non-conference slate before they play against the tough Big 12 schedule. But I think, like I said, this is going to be a unique Tommy Lloyd team where he has never really had to rely on freshmen. Carter Bryant, Kylan Boswell, even some other guys, they're kind of like slowly integrated into the rotation, and they got more and more minutes as the season progressed because Tommy wants these guys to feel comfortable. When they get into conference play after already going through the gauntlet of the non-conference schedule. They want the freshmen to feel comfortable. Well, they don't have that 2-month runway like some of the other freshmen have. Carter Bryant, Braden Burries, Dwayne Aristote, some of these other freshmen, they're going to have to step up and contribute right away. But I mean, look at what you've seen out of Switzerland with Koa Peat, man. You have to feel confident about this guy and what he can bring.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Our guy Saul Bookman here in the chat, who was out there in Colorado Springs at the U19 practices, the trials leading up to see who made the roster, got a firsthand look at what was going on out there and says that Koa and AJ were undeniably the leaders on that team. We got Max here in the chat saying, kind of like if Aaron Gordon and Stanley Johnson were the same year for us in regards to Braden Burries times Koa Peat. It
Yeah.
really could be a special duo, man. And to what Justin was speaking on earlier, if you have not seen that Braden Burries practice footage that got leaked, go to Twitter and type it in. He absolutely puts a guy on a poster, poor practice squad player on a poster who, credit to that guy, right? Like didn't do the Koa Pete Ole. You know what I mean? For at the U19 World Cup that people are doing with Koa Pete. I mean, he fully rose up and just got yammed on by Braden Burries. So tough to watch, but definitely really, really cool. If you're an Arizona fan, looks like we have two absolute blue chip NBA prospects coming in next year into one and dones. But I think that what makes this roster really special is that you supplement that with a senior point guard who has a ton of leadership, right? In Jaden Bradley. You have Tobe Awaka, who's going to be going into his senior season and has played a lot of high level college basketball. Even Mo Krivas is a junior now. He's spent some time in college basketball at this point. So I think that this is a special build because it complements those blue chip elite level players that are going to be NBA prospects that you need to have a high ceiling as a team with tons of experience at key positions.
And it's the perfect recipe to win a national championship. If you look at, I mean, the national champions over the last decade or so, they've all had a nice blend of veteran players that have several years of college basketball experience and also really talented freshmen. And it's so fascinating that John Calipari, who was the guy who was like the face of the one and done era, only won one national championship during his time at Kentucky. Meanwhile, you got guys like Jay Wright at Villanova. You look at, some of the other schools like Florida, who just won a national championship recently, Baylor. They always do a nice job of bringing in some great freshmen, but they also value developing the players and having the 4-year guys available on your team. And I mean, Damon, you just kind of brought it up. I mean, you have 2 lottery picks in Koa Peat and also Braden Burries. And then you add that to the mix of Toby Awaka, who, I mean, showed a lot of toughness defensively, is a great rebounder. Like, that when it comes to a big game, that Toby Awaka is not going to shy away. He's going to, want to guard the team's best post player. He's a guy that brings a lot of energy, and he showed that in the postseason. I think Jaden Bradley, this is the first time that Tommy Lloyd has had really a point guard for like 3 seasons, right? When he first got here, it was all Kirk Risa, and then it went into Kylan Boswell. And as we all know, the Kylan Boswell era was kind of short-lived, and then it went on to the Jaden Bradley era, who's now going into his 3rd season in the program. And I think having a veteran point guard who's seen it all, who's been through it all, knows Tommy, knows what he wants out of his point guard, I think that is a really good recipe. And I just think that the collection of players that Arizona has added in the last year and the guys that they have coming back, maybe this is the team that gets Arizona over the hump and gets them into the Final Four. They don't have I guess the go-to bucket getter like a Caleb Love that they had last year, but I mean, Koa Peat looks like he can get some buckets whenever he wants to. Braden Burries certainly looks like a bucket getter as well. And Jaden Bradley, as we know, offensively, sometimes he can step it up too. So this Arizona basketball team is well constructed. It sucks that you don't have Carter Bryant because, man, if Carter Bryant was on this team, man, we'd be talking about Arizona being a bona fide top 3 team. But even without Carter Bryant, a great freshmen in Koa Peat, Braden Burries, and all those other veterans that we just talked about, I think this is going to be a team that goes well. And also think with the non-conference schedule, even if Arizona, has some bruises along the way in non-conference schedule. We saw what happened last year. They learned from those mistakes and they definitely turned it up in Big 12 play. And I think you could see that. And I think over the course of the season, this tough group, if they get battle tested, look out because the Wildcats can go deep.
Yeah, absolutely. This team definitely looks to maybe have Tommy's best shot, I feel like, of making a deep tournament run, just when you look at the roster construction of it. And I feel that Tommy in general has mostly overachieved with his teams. When you look at, what they've done, especially I think about that team and I know that they lost in the first round, so it's going to sound like an underachievement, but the record that team had that lost to Princeton was an unbelievable coaching job by Tommy Lloyd to basically run through the Pac-12 that season, and kind of just like get earn themselves a 2 seed in the process. I mean, they were pretty dominant all year. They had an insanely good offense, but that team, when you look at the roster of it on paper, just was not really it. Especially when you compare it to a team like this year's team, and then you look at last year. I felt that obviously, and I'm sure everybody did that after non-conference that it was kind of up in the air. Like, is this team even going to make the tournament? I mean, they were
Yeah.
500 after non-conference, and they really leave no doubt, and they completely transform their identity as a team. Tommy, loses Krivas and decides we're just going to be a transition team, and it was to work to great effect for the most part, except when you played those really upper echelon teams like the Houstons and the Dukes of the world. It didn't really work out against them, but I really feel that Tommy has done a good job of mostly overachieving based off of the rosters that he has set. But this year is really where the special roster gets put into place. And now, if he can combine that coaching with this roster construction, I mean, that's when you really have national title type of chances in teams and expectations in Tucson.
Yeah, but I think that Mo Krivas, I think he is the X factor in this whole equation.
Yeah, I think it's
Because
fair.
as much as Koa Pete's great, as much as Toby Awaka's great, as much as some of the other guys they have are great, they this is not sourced by any means, just from the outside looking in, it was almost like they chose Krivas over Henry Vasar, right? Because I'm sure Tommy probably looked at the situation and told Henry, like, hey, Henry, yeah, you were great. You had a breakout season. I mean, when Mo Krivas went down, I'll never forget when a lot of people who follow Arizona were like, oh my gosh, season's over with. Arizona doesn't have their star big man. And Henry Vasar, I mean, he really stepped up big time. Obviously, he went to North Carolina, took up that opportunity. I'm happy for him, excited for him to, go play at a big time program like UNC. But I'm basically, from what I am gathering, is they went to Henry Vasar and said, yeah, you were great, but you don't have a guaranteed starting spot. We still like Mo Krivas. Mo Krivas is probably going to come back. You'll have to battle it out for that starting spot, or you can, be okay being the reserve forward, and we're just going to give you a bunch of minutes. And I think Mo Krivas, him staying in Arizona, essentially choosing him over Henry Vasar, I think it says a lot about Mo Krivas. And people forget Mo Krivas was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, coming over from Europe. I mean, he was dubbed by like Jonathan Gavoni and the guys from Draft Express like the next great European prospect. And who also had those expectations was Henry Vasar. And obviously, Henry Vasar didn't really live up to those expectations until about year 3. Oh, what year is Mo Krivas going into? He's going into year 3 with the program. So for people who have doubts when it comes to Mo Krivas, just hang tight. I think this guy is going to be the real deal, but he's got to be able to stay healthy. Big men with those foot injuries, that could be problematic. If Mo Krivas can stay healthy and if that foot can stay healthy and he can live up to those expectations that he came with coming to Arizona, then I think Arizona's going to be in a pretty good spot. But I think out of all the players that we just talked about, Mo Krivas is probably going to be that X factor.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. And when you talk about, some people maybe being a little bit lower on a Mo Krivas, Me and Kevin, I think, are notoriously a couple of those people. Like we definitely prefer, I think, at least I do. I won't speak for Kevin entirely, but I prefer the style of a Henry Vasar big man that can run the floor a little bit more, maybe is a little bit more versatile defensively. But I completely agree with you. It feels as though Tommy Lloyd has chosen Mo Krivas of sorts over Henry Vasar, like as if, like, hey, we're going to have a two-man center rotation. Tobe Awaka's cool with being one of those guys. And, which one of these other two is it going to be? And, I think that you can see that Tommy has clearly invested a ton of resources into a Mo Krivas. And, you have opportunity cost now, right? Because if he has another disappointing season or he gets hurt again, and you look over in North Carolina and you see Henry Vasar leading Sports Center highlights every night because he plays on the East Coast all of a sudden, like that's going to hurt a little bit as an Arizona fan. That's going to sting. So, yeah, I'd say that there's a lot of pressure on Mo Krivas as well. But at the end of the day, like I feel like as Arizona fans, we need to trust Tommy Lloyd. If this is the guy that he, has kind of anointed and crowned as his guy, and like he believes in him, then who are we to disagree with, the big man whisperer, basically, like the guy who finds these, foreign big men consistently and molds them into extremely high level college basketball players. So, yeah, ultimately, I think you have to, let Tommy Lloyd kind of just do his job. But I think that you're right that there's going to be a big magnifying glass on Mo Krivas next year and how he performs for Arizona basketball.
And Mo, I mean, can really take that next step, like we just talked about. I mean, it's with when you look at Tommy Lloyd's track record. Now, Christian Coloco, there could have been a big chance that he was going to take that next step regardless, whoever was the coach, because he spent the first 2 seasons with Sean Miller and then elevated to becoming the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year and one of the best shot blocking big men that Arizona has ever seen. I mean, you could make an argument that he is the best shot blocker that Arizona has ever seen. I mean, guys like Lauren Woods, there have been some other, big time playmakers at the rim, but, Christian Coloco evolved into that Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. And then when you think about the years after that, I'll never, ever forget Umar Ballo's first game at Arizona, or at least the first time that I saw Umar Ballo at the U of A. That guy was huffing and puffing and was so out of shape getting up and down the court. And Tommy, I think, shared the story last year or 2 years ago that when he first brought Umar over from Gonzaga and they were in practice and they saw Umar go up against Christian Coloco, and obviously Coloco was kind of working him. And one of his assistant coaches turned to him and was like, "Are you sure about this?" And Tommy was like, "Trust me. Trust me, Umar. It's going to work out." And lo and behold, Umar Ballo is this great player and is now playing for the Miami Heat and their summer league team. He's joining Pella Larson and Kashad Johnson
The Miami
up in Las
Wildcats.
Vegas, which is awesome, man. I can't wait for that. But Umar Ballo over a few seasons evolved into this great player under Tommy Lloyd. Look at what Henry Vasar did. They kept him engaged, and when his opportunity came, I mean, he capitalized on it. And so there is a history of big men who have thrived under Tommy Lloyd in this regime. I'm not going to give up on Mo Krivas just yet. I think he could be that next guy in line.
Yeah, yeah, I'm totally with you there, and I think that that's a great story that kind of encapsulates, Tommy Lloyd and the why we should trust him, right? Because yeah, I mean, I'm sure with Umar Ballo, it did look pretty rough early on, and he became, as much as again, like it's not exactly my style of preferred big man. Like I like a little bit more versatile, athletically type of guy. I do think that Umar Ballo was undeniably a high level college basketball player when it was all said and done, and a guy that got paid by Indiana for a reason, right? Like not because he was some slouch. So got time to trust Tommy Lloyd when it comes to big man decisions like that. But yeah, the magnifying glass certainly on. Great news for Arizona basketball. Feels like the vibes are extremely high with everything we're seeing right now out of Koa Peat, out of Braden Burries. And, do those vibes continue into Arizona football? We'll talk about that right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. But first, oh, wow. First, I'll put myself on screen, I think. Now we'll talk about our fine sponsors. And of course, we'll start off with our friends at Branded Bills. Branded Bills, I got my Branded Bills hat on right now. We got a brand new promo code for you. It is BBPHNX, and it'll get you 15% off your first purchase. We all know about their campus collection. You hear me talk about it all the time. They have the best Arizona Wildcats merchandise in the business. They have their special campus collection that you can get only at the Arizona bookstore, the main bookstore in Tucson, maybe the McHale one as well. I haven't checked it out, but Branded Bills is taking over Arizona Wildcats fandom. Every time I go to an Arizona event, all I see is Branded Bills hats on everybody. And of course, we have our special PHNX Branded Bills collection. I'm wearing one right now with the Phoenix on top. It is a beautiful hat. It is the most comfortable hat I own. Branded Bills lives for making comfortable hats that are stylish, effective, whether it's a snapback trucker fitted beanie or even a t-shirt. You know Branded Bills has you covered. Head on over to brandedbills.com and use promo code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. Love Branded Bills and love Empire Today. Guys, if we had a way to break this Empire Today flooring, we would have done it already. That is the type of savages that we have in this office. But I'm looking at it right now. It's in our main studio still for a reason. It's because it looks pristine. It's still shining. It's still glowing. We love our friends at Empire Today. And there's good reason for it, too. This isn't some big box store where no one's really an expert on anything. And you go up and you ask them, oh, can you help me with flooring? Yeah, but, this guy might be a little bit better for you. No. Empire Today, they specialize in flooring. This is what they live for. They're going to show up at your house, use their virtual floor designer, take a picture of whatever room you're looking to get some new flooring in, and show you exactly what that flooring is going to look like in that room, before you make a massive purchase that you regret. That's why Empire Today is the absolute best. They make the process seamless. They make it easy, and they're people that know exactly what they're talking about. So use our promo code PHNX. It's going to get you $350 off your new flooring. Schedule a free in-home estimate today and receive $350 discount with code PHNX. And restrictions do apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/PHNX for full details. Man. Let's get Justin back in here. Copy was hiding on me a little bit at the end of that one. Got to keep cranking my neck over. I don't know how Kevin does it all the time. I get to sit in my beautiful throne and just have it right in front of me, but it's a little bit more difficult when you're constantly, doing an owl neck crank.
Dude, it's just one of those days, man. It's just one of those days. Your reads are hiding. I'm currently in my car right now, sweat my ass off. It's just one of those days, but we're
professional podcasting, baby. This is what we do. And apparently another thing we do is land top 10 quarterbacks, Justin, because Oscar Rios commits to the University of Arizona. And, it feels like there's some momentum building in this 2026 recruiting class for Brent Brennan and company.
No doubt, man. This is a big time commitment for the Arizona Wildcats. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Oscar Rios is Arizona's highest rated quarterback commit since, drumroll please, 2001. 2001. That's the last time Arizona had a quarterback rated higher than Oscar Rios. Think about all of the great quarterbacks that Arizona has acquired since then. We're talking about Willie Tuitama, right? Nick Foles. Khalil Tate was actually a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. Oscar Rios was rated higher than him. Grant Gunnell, who is the Texas high school football all-time passing yards leader. He was also a highly touted recruit. Oscar Rios still rated higher than this guy. So in terms of the national pundits and the scouts who follow recruiting in high school football, Oscar Rios is viewed as one of the best at his position. Rated number 10 by 247sports.com at quarterback. And he was invited to the Elite 11 quarterback camp, which only features the top 11 quarterbacks at the high school football level. And you kind of figured that he was going to go to Arizona when he was wearing the Arizona towels and all that at the Elite 11 quarterback camp. But
he still had his UCLA wristband on, though.
That's a good point.
That's what everybody was talking about, that he was wearing both a Wildcats and a Bruins wristband while he was throwing.
Oh, but no towel, man. The towel had the block A on it, baby. And so,
Justin, I said on my Twitter account when I was watching the live stream of the commitment that first reaction before he even made his decision, I got my tweet off and it said, first initial thoughts, regular UCLA logo, boring. And I like their colors and their logo fine, but like just their regular old stuff. Meanwhile, the Arizona hat, it was light blue. It had a navy brim. It had a like an old like Arizona Wilbur Pa logo. I mean, it felt like it was pretty
Mhm.
clear which side he was choosing based off of his fitteds.
And he was also, red bomber jacket or button down, whatever the hell he was wearing. I kinda had a feeling that he was gonna go to Arizona as soon as I saw that, but, I started to put the pieces together leading up to his commitment, and then I realized, okay, he is connected to the Fifita family. He's very close with them, and come to find out, he was actually youth football teammates with Dash Fifita, the younger brother of Noah Fifita, and there you go. There you see the picture. That was posted by the Fifita's mom, Winona Fifita, who's kind of turned into like the team mom for the University of Arizona. But yeah, there they are playing for the Orange County Buckeyes. You got Oscar on the left, rocking the number 9, and then Dash Fifita, he's right there wearing number 3. But yeah, I mean, the Arizona Wildcats are pretty much replicating their 2022 recruiting class to a degree, right? Like they don't have the Tetaroa McMillan, the guy that's the highest rated recruit in program history, and they're not bringing in a bunch of 4 stars. But when you look at the common denominator, it is the Fifita family member who's kind of turned into like the ringleader of the recruiting class. Dash Fifita was one of the first recruits to commit to the University of Arizona. And since then, you started to see some guys that are committing that are connected to the Fifitas in some way. And then they're not done just yet. They got Manoa Fapusa, who's a defensive lineman. He is connected to the Fifita family as well. I expect him to commit. I think it's on July 2nd. That's his announcement date. But there have been a few guys connected to the Fifita family that are committing to the University of Arizona. How effective these guys are going to be, I don't know, but I think it's really cool that once again, we're getting a Fifita family member out here recruiting for the University of Arizona. But this Oscar Rios kid, he's a big time prospect. I mean, he's 6'3", I think like 180 pounds. So he still, has time to put some weight on his
Yeah,
frame. I mean,
he's
he's
slight.
very, very skinny, right? But thankfully, he's got another year of high school football. He could enroll early, get into that weight room program in the spring, and put on some weight. And good news for him. They're not expecting him to go out and compete for the starting quarterback competition, because if I'm just going to project how 2026 is going to look like, let's just assume, right, that Arizona goes 6-6. They make a bowl game in 2025. Brent Brennan comes back for year 3. I expect Noah Fifita to be Arizona's starting quarterback in 2026, because I think that, I mean, unless he just, I mean, sets the program record for passing yards and goes off and is, showing promise as a potential professional quarterback, I think it means a lot for him to be teammates with his younger brother Dash. And if the Fifita brothers can be teammates, that's something that the family would really want. And if Noah is your quarterback in 2026, Oscar and whoever comes to Arizona, they can learn from Noah. And then in 2027, that's when Seth Dagey and company, they can roll out the ball and be like, okay, let the best quarterback win, because now you've got Oscar Rios in the fold, and then also who's playing quarterback at Arizona right now is you have Luke Hago, an in-state commit who's or in-state signee, I should say. He's going to be a freshman this upcoming season. He's 6'5", big body quarterback, has a great arm. And then you also have Sawyer Anderson as well, where, I mean, he's a little bit smaller. I mean, he's definitely more like Noah Fifita than, say, Luke Hago. But, I mean, you can't deny the production. This guy was playing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and threw for over 14,000 yards. He is the Dallas-Fort Worth record holder for passing yards, and Arizona has him on their roster right now. And he's a Seth Dagey guy. He was originally going to Purdue. where Seth Dagey was, and then Seth Dagey ended up going to Marshall. This guy ended up decommitting, and then he's been on the market ever since then. And when Seth Dagey came over to Arizona, he was a very late ad. And I mean, like I said, he looks very young. I mean, he looks like he's like 12 years old, but the dude threw for over 14,000 yards in the Dallas area where football means a lot. So I like
He
Sawyer
definitely looks
Anderson.
12 years old. I remember when we were out at the spring game, he took his helmet off, and I like spit take. Like it was shocking seeing what he looked like. And I brought it up to Noah Fifita when we were talking to him after the spring showcase, and he mentioned to me that he was like, "Yeah, man, Sawyer's just a baller." Like he was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, he's got a baby face, and he looks like he's obviously a smaller kid, but he was taken." At the spring showcase, at least, I know that they were not trying to put Noah Fifita out there, and we've talked, in lead up to that coaches now have to kind of hide some players to an extent in those things, but it felt like he was getting probably the second most action out there after Braden Locke from
Yeah.
transfer in from Wisconsin.
Yeah. And Braden Locke is another guy who could have eligibility in 2027. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting situation to see how the quarterbacks pan out over the next couple of years. But for now, I think it's good that the Wildcats have the face of the franchise in Noah Fifita, where he's good to where he is considered, one of the top passers in the Big 12, in my opinion, right? There's a lot of lists out there that don't really have Noah Fifita as one of the top quarterbacks. And trust me, Seth Dagey is reminding him about that. So we had Seth Dagey on the show last week on ESPN Tucson, and Noah was at the Manning Passing Academy out there in Louisiana. And that's such a cool story with Noah going out there because Seth Dagey also participated in the Manning Passing Academy. And when he was at Texas Tech, and his roommate was former Arizona quarterback Nick Foles. While Nick Foles was at the U of A, and you had guys like Kirk Cousins, Andrew Luck was in that Manning Passing Academy, and Seth Dagey told me that after like the first night that they got there, that him and Nick Foles went out hunting for alligators, like super late at night. Like they had some locals that were helping them, and they went out and were hunting alligators, and they caught one. And afterwards, they went and got pizza super late night at a pizza parlor, and Andrew Luck bought everyone pizzas in the whole joint. Uh, so Seth Dagey's got some ties to the Manning Passing Academy, and he's always maintained that connection. He was telling me that Archie Manning during his senior season would just text him after a big game, like on Sunday morning. He'd be like, "Hey man, I watched your game last night. Great job." And Seth Dagey has always maintained that connection with the Manning family, and put in a good word for his guy Noah, and Noah was able to get the invite to the Manning Passing Academy. And during this time, there have been lists of like the top Big 12 quarterbacks, and Noah's not on there. And Seth Dagey is reminding him, like, hey, these people are forgetting who the hell you are. You were the Pac 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. You had this 72% completion rate, and you show that you are one of the dudes. But since you had a rough year last year, people are starting to write you off. So what are you going to do about that? And Seth Dagey is constantly motivating Noah Fifita this summer. He's constantly pushing the envelope here. And going back to what I was saying earlier, is that Noah Fifita is a damn good quarterback. Now, are we worried about Noah Fifita maybe turning pro after next year? I think it's a good situation for Arizona to where you have the face of the franchise, you have a good dude who's leading this football team, but you also are confident enough that he's going to come back for his senior season in 2026 and continue to mentor guys like Sawyer Anderson and also Oscar Rios. And Oscar Rios is actually the first Southern California quarterback to join Arizona since Noah Fifita. And they've been connected through Juice County. So it's a really good scenario for Arizona. And, no matter who's the starting quarterback in 2027, whether it's Oscar Rios or Sawyer Anderson, the Wildcats got some really good options behind Noah Fifita.
Yeah, Noah Fifita, having any sort of, professional type of interest, I would say is nothing but first world problems for Arizona. But you're right. It feels good to have a big J journalist like yourself, Justin, uh, say this. Someone with expertise to confirm the suspicions of kind of a blowhard like myself. Because I was saying initially, like, I felt like the transition from Oscar Rios, having him have the ability to redshirt for a season while Noah Fifita plays with Dash Fifita in his final season of college football. It all just makes too much sense. It all just fits a puzzle like too perfectly, in my opinion. And obviously, you see with the Rios and Fifita family connection. I believe Dash Fifita was out there at his announcement when he committed
Yeah.
to Arizona. So clearly, it's there seems to be kind of a lockstep there when it comes to and I don't want to read too much into it, but like I think Oscar Rios, if he was like, I need to play the second I get to a school, he wouldn't have gone to a school of a friend's older brother who's clearly the set in stone quarterback. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that the situation plays out very just perfectly. But another thing that we've been talking about on this show for a while, Justin, is just kind of what this can do for the rest of your recruiting class, right? Because a lot of times it takes a quarterback to come in to galvanize some of the other higher profile recruits that you're going after. Do you think that this could have a similar effect with Arizona's recruiting class in 2026 with Oscar Rios committing? Like, other people like starting to open their eyes now, like, hey, look, they got a quarterback who we can go win with if I go choose to play in Tucson.
No doubt, and I think the fact that Oscar Rios is, from Southern California helps Arizona because
Yeah.
he is connected not only throughout Orange County, but all throughout the LA area, and Arizona's targeting a bunch of guys in LA. And, he can reach out to players, whether it's this upcoming recruiting class or even in 2027, right? Because Oscar Rios is like, okay, I may not be the starter for another couple years. Let's see if I can, tap into some future recruiting classes and see if I can convince some guys to come out to Arizona. So, yeah, I mean, Dash Fafita has turned into the ringleader of this recruiting class, but now that Oscar Rios is officially on board, he can take on that recruiting guru or just kind of like that ringleader, especially as a quarterback, right? Because you want to be able to bring in offensive weapons that you want to be teammates with, right? You want to be able to bring in guys that you feel comfortable passing them the ball and that can make plays. So I think this is going to be a trickle down effect. Arizona's recruiting class right now currently sits at about 16. I'm curious where that number is going to be because usually in June and July is when you start to stack up the high school prospects in your recruiting class. But now with revenue share coming into play, there's going to be this unique thing in college football that we're going to be kind of monitoring over the next several months. And that is with the early signing period in December, there are going to be some kids that essentially play chicken with schools with when it comes to money, right? Like these coaches, these schools are telling kids, "Hey, when you're a true freshman, this is your projected value. This is what we're expected to give you." And the recruit could be like, "Okay, that's fine. Let me keep my options open to see if there's another school that's going to give me more money." And they pretty much like, okay, I'm going to see if Arizona is going to give me more money as we get closer to December. But that can also be a higher risk too, because let's say you get hurt, let's say you're not as talented, let's say Arizona adds a few guys at that position and then they don't have any room for these recruits. So it's going to be pretty interesting, right? When these guys that are playing chicken for money and they may not have an opportunity elsewhere, but I think the guys that Arizona is recruiting, they're not going after like the ultimate bag chasers. They're going after the players that want to be at the University of Arizona, that want to be developed, and that also want to be teammates with their buddies. That want to be teammates with Dash Fafita and Oscar Rios, and really develop a strong culture and something that they can be proud of. So, I think that this Arizona recruiting class, I mean, it currently sits at 16, and I think by the time that we get to maybe the season opener against Hawaii on August 30th, this will be a class that's in the low 20s.
Well, yeah, wow. I mean, right now they're sitting in terms of ranking just outside the top 50 with those 16 commits, and yeah, they're at number 51 right now with the recent additions of Oscar Rios and Brandon Smith, who we haven't talked about at all here.
Yeah.
Brandon Smith, a 3-star running back, the second highest graded recruit by 247 Sports in Arizona's class now. So Arizona, in the span of 2 days, gets their two highest rated recruits in their current class, and Brandon Smith is a guy that I know Greg Biggins is extremely high on. He's called him one of the best athletes on the West Coast. And kind of to the point about Oscar Rios, Brandon Smith was like, he was tweeting all sorts of stuff about, the new quarterback and running back in Tucson, with Oscar Rios, like that being the future of the program. It feels like that he has kind of been galvanized by getting that future signal caller in the building. And that's kind of what we're talking about, Justin, just with it opening eyes, especially on the West Coast, especially in California, for other kids to be like, this is a program that we can go win at because Oscar Rios is a really damn good quarterback.
And Brandon Smith is a great player that is going to play running back at Arizona. And I mean, he was recruited by Alonzo Carter and Chip Viney, and Chip Viney is the Arizona's cornerbacks coach. And some people speculated, oh, could he play defensive back at Arizona? And I've confirmed that he is going to play running back at the U of A. And Arizona, they don't necessarily need running backs, but if you have the opportunity to add a guy like a Brandon Smith, who, by the way, Arizona football fans, this guy's very, very fast. He at the California State Championships this year as a junior. He was a part of, I think it's East Central High School. That's the school that he's going to in Fresno, and he's on the 4x400 meter relay team, and he's the anchor. If you're the anchor on the 4x400 team, you are fast, like scary fast. And Central East actually finished second in the state championships this past year. So Brandon Smith being the anchor, almost leading Central East High School out of little old Fresno to a state championship, I think it says a lot about his speed. And he's a great defensive back, but man, he's a great running back. I mean, when he gets into fifth gear, it is so hard to take him down. So this is a good running back. And like I said, they don't necessarily need running backs because, they're going to lose Ismail Mahdi this year after, the 2025 season. But, you look at the guys that they could conceivably bring back, and we're talking about Mike Mitchell, who's going to be out this year with a season-ending leg injury. But from what we saw in the spring, guy's a damn good running back. Kedrick Risano is also a really good running back too. That is, likely to come back unless he has a breakout year. And then, you look at also the freshmen as well that they just added. Cornelius Warren the third, aka Corn, and then Wesley Yarborough out of Houston. They got that Dallas Houston 1-2 punch that's coming to Arizona. And, Corn, if he could put on some weight, he's going to be a really good player. Wesley's definitely more of a tougher running back, but they have depth at that running back position. But man, if Brandon Smith is interested in joining your team, you don't say no to that. So Alonzo Carter, stand up, man. Job well done.
Yeah. Seems like a great move for Arizona and just kind of capitalizing on that momentum that this month of June has brought for Arizona football recruiting, because I believe that makes that double-digit recruits for the month. I think 11 recruits that Arizona has
Something
nabbed
like
this
that.
month alone.
Yeah, something like that. And usually, June is where you get most of your commits because it's official visit season, right? Like I think official visits start one of the last weekends in May, and then it carries into the month of June. And a note that I mentioned earlier was, sometimes teams don't have spots for you. Like if you're like, okay, I'm going to keep my recruitment open, and you drag it out throughout the season, well, they're like, okay, you're showing us uncertainty. This guy really wants to join us, so we're going to take this guy. And so for a lot of these guys, it's a way for them to get a spot with a team, maintain their spot, and enter the football season without any stress of where you're going to play the next year or so. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I got to
I'm
keep
really
recruiting
pleased
them.
with Arizona's recruiting class. I think that they've done a nice job of kind of reaching into several areas that they have connections to. right? Like the Bay Area, they've gotten a few guys out of there. They've obviously have gotten a few guys out of LA. They've really hit Texas really hard too. And when you're in Big 12 country, you got to be able to recruit the state of Texas, and they can really sell Arizona to Texas recruits because Arizona, whether it's Baylor or Houston or Texas Tech, like they're going to Texas every single year. So you could pitch to these Texas recruits, hey, you can get on a direct flight, come to Tucson, Arizona, and come to all of our home games, or you could wait until we go to Texas once or twice a year. So they're bringing in a lot of Texas recruits too, and they also just added a lineman from American Samoa as well. So, I mean, California, check. Texas, check. The Polynesian Islands, check. Arizona has hit all the check marks on the recruiting class, and it's still building.
Do you have any insight on Kaisi Lafataga, the aforementioned, prospect out of Pago Pago, American Samoa? Because it was pretty hard to find information on him when we were trying to do some research into him. I know that he plays both sides of the football. I know that he probably is going to be playing under a defensive line under Joe Salvea, correct? But not much else out there on the internet streets on Lafataga.
I didn't know his first name's pronunciation. Can you pronounce that again? Is
I
that
try.
is that how you pronounce it?
Sometimes I just try to run with it, especially with the poly guys. I really just try to overemphasize the vowels in their names. So Kaisi, I just tried to pronounce every
Kaisi.
vowel.
See, I was the typical white guy, and I was like, "Oh, Casey, he's a Casey
M-
Lafitaga. He could very well
Maybe
be a Casey. I don't know. I
I,
don't
I
know,
you know
but
I like I said, I try to overemphasize the vowels for sure with the poly guys. But I mean, now that I'm looking at it, you definitely. You could be preaching to the choir. They could definitely be Casey, no doubt
like
about
it
it.
could be like just a unique way of spelling Casey. That's what I thought when I first saw it. But I was just like,
And
okay,
now,
however you pronounce his first name, whatever. He's just gonna be Lafitaga.
yeah,
Lafitaga though, um, which makes me think of that great song Laffy Taffy. Um, Great song, great song. Anyways, I digress. Lafitaga, I don't know what side of the ball he's going to play on. I think the fact that he is being recruited by Joe Salavea suggests that he's going to be a defensive lineman, or it could have just been Joe Salavea having connections to the Polynesian Islands, to American Samoa, and Hawaii. That he was just the main recruiter on Mr. Lafitaga, but no
true.
matter what side of the ball he plays, I mean, he's what 6'3", you know, closing in on what like 290 pounds or something like that. So he's a pretty big time player, definitely a big body, and yeah, I'm curious to see what side of the ball he plays on. But I think he's definitely going to be an interior defensive lineman. If Joe Salve is recruiting him, then I think that's what side of the ball he's going to play on.
Yeah, definitely an interesting prospect. I feel like with the American Samoa and the Samoan guys that you bring in, they're somewhat of wild cards where like they could be pretty high level players. I don't want to say it's the exact same, but I knew that during COVID times it was really hard for recruiting analysts to get out to Hawaii, and that's part of the
Yeah.
reason a guy like Jonas Savanea was so undervalued from a recruiting standpoint until very late on in the process is because they hardly got a look at him. And that's kind of how it ends up for these American Samoan guys as well, because it's not always easy for these recruiting analysts to get a ton of game film on these players.
Especially linemen.
Yeah,
That is the hardest position to rate, even when you're on the mainland, right? And when you're over here rating linemen, defensive linemen, offensive linemen over there in Hawaii, it's hard to rate these guys. And, that's why Jonas Savianaya, coming out of high school in 2022, he was rated as a 3-star guy, just kind of like your typical run in the mill recruit. And all of a sudden, at the Polynesian Bowl, he is leading the Haka. He is one of the best players out there at this showcase, which features some of the best high school talent in the game. And then he comes to Arizona as an early enrollee. And, I've shared this story on this podcast leading into the NFL draft. Chris Forrester, who is a guy who has coached offensive line at the NFL for decades. I mean, we're talking about 3-4 decades of offensive line experience in the National Football League. And he looked at Jonah, was like, who the hell is that guy? That guy is so impressive. And Jed Fish was like, yeah, that guy, he should be a second semester senior in high school right now, and he's an early enrollee. So, the Polynesian players that come from Hawaii and American Samoa, sometimes these guys fly under the radar. Sometimes they don't pan out, right? When they get to college, it's hard to adjust to the lifestyle being over here and and the speed of the college game. But for a lot of these players, they fly under the radar and then they turn out to be some big time prospects. And Joe Salavea, if there's anything that we've learned about him over the years from his time at Washington State, especially Washington State, Oregon, Miami, you could recruit a ton of great players out there. But look at his time at Washington State and look at the guys that he developed there. More notably, Hercules Mataafa. So if Joe Salavea thinks you're worthy enough of being a Power Four football player, then you're worthy of being a Power Four football player. And I feel confident in Mr. Lafitaga turning out to be a stud.
Absolutely. 8 count here asks, Damon, are either you, Kevin, or Saul going to be at the media day in Frisco next week? Me and Kevin will both be there. My guy Justin Spears will be there as well. And we're going to talk top storylines right here after the break before we get out of here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. But before we do, let's talk Gila River. My guy Derek Montilla was out at Gila River getting a complimentary stay, and he had the absolute best time. Took advantage of the fine dining options they have there. Said he had a great time chilling out by the pool in the cabanas, getting some drinks at the bar, getting some frozen margs maybe at the bar. I mean, Gila River really has it all. It's the best place to staycation. They got their concert venue, all the live table games and slots, as well as the biggest sports book in the state of Arizona. If that's something that you like, having that physical ticket in your hand, Gila River does have it all. Wild Horse Pass has it all. Our favorite location. Make sure you guys go check it out and take a staycation in the heat of the summer. It's the best place to go relax, maybe leave the kids at home and just have a good time. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Also, you hear us talk about it all the time. If you're not a member of the Inner Circle, you absolutely hate money because it is so easy to sign up. You download the app, you plug in an email, you choose a password, bing, bang, boom, you're done. You're a member of the Inner Circle. You save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Then you save 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up at the tank after that when you insert your phone number until you become a premium member, and you'll save 5 cents off per gallon every time that you fill up. It is way too much money to be saving to just ignore this sort of membership. And guess what? They also have fuel days. They're going to save you 40 cents off per gallon on select days. They just had one last week. I know Erica Day, a friend of the program, was out there taking advantage of that fuel day. So yeah, become a member of the Inner Circle, guys. It's so easy to sign up, and it is so much savings on that app. Join the Inner Circle for free. Download the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. And Justin, I know that you're a busy man. I know you got a lot on your schedule here because you got to get some Hodads in you in San Diego. But I did want to ask you real quick, what were your top storylines going into Big 12 Media Day next week?
Well, I definitely want to learn about Noah Fifita's experience at the Manning Passing Academy. We'll see, what he took away from that experience and how working with Seth Dagey is going to allow him. I mean, he's already had that breakout season in 2022, but now that he's had, by his standards, a down year, how is he going to bounce back from that? How is that connection elevating his game? How is he molding into a leader? So that's something that I'm going to be looking forward to. And I'm also really interested in talking to Rhino Tapatotai, the offensive lineman, who's also going to be one of Arizona's player representatives because he suffered a season-ending leg injury last year and missed the entirety of spring and has been rehabbing. And with the additions of Ty Buchanan and also Tristan Bounds, is Big Rhino going to maybe move inside to guard? Is that an option for Arizona? Or is he going to stay at left tackle? So just his development, how he's been able to get better and rehab, and what his plan is for this upcoming season, that's something I'm going to be looking forward to. And then of course, there's some other storylines from other schools, like how's ASU going to look in the post Cam Scadaboo era, and then BYU with this whole situation with Jake Retzlaff. This could open up the door for Tucson native Trayson Bourget to start for the BYU Cougars, who, by the way, come to Tucson in October. So, yeah, lots of storylines going into Big 12 Media Day.
We've already had a couple of Bourgets suit up against their hometown team. Maybe we could find another one here. You're very right about that. But yeah, that Retzlaff stuff is definitely going to be the kind of the main storyline going into Big 12 Media Day here, just with the nature of how recently that happened. If you haven't heard, Jake Retzlaff was set to be, I believe, suspended due to an honor code violation by BYU and is now instead entering the transfer portal. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But as far as ASU is concerned, I'm pretty sure they already won the conference, Justin. At least that's what I'm being told every day at this office.
Oh, man. And no media poll, too. So ASU can sit there and be like, well, number one in the preseason media poll.
You know, one thing about that real quick before we get out of here, I did just want to say that I feel like that was bad. That's bad marketing by the Big 12 because it's almost, if I was the Big 12, I'd be leaning into, hey man, you could be picked to finish last in this conference and win the whole damn thing. That's how crazy this conference is. That's how special top to bottom this conference is. And instead they're like, man, we got it wrong last year. Bend the entire idea. Like, I think that they went the complete opposite way they should have gone on that.
They're like, you know what? We're tired of people like Justin Spears voting for Arizona to finish top 3 when they were a bottom 3 program, and ASU to finish 14th. I think at 14th or 15th for ASU last year, and they ended up winning the whole thing. So they're like, enough with these media jabronis, capital J jabroni. Get them out of here. Let's just roll out the ball and let the best team go out there and perform.
You weren't alone, Justin, but that definitely could be one of our Frosty Cold Takes sponsored by the new Wendy's Frosties. But Justin, I did want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're in San Diego. I'm sure you're excited to get out of this car, experience the weather, and really take it in and take in one of those Hodad burgers. But I will say appreciate you for joining us, and go check out Justin's work at Tucson.com. Go check out his work every weekday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. with Spears and Ali. That great Seth Dagey interview that you brought up, talking about chasing the alligators with Nick Foles. Phenomenal stuff, kind of work that you can go find over there on a daily basis from Justin and Ali Farhang. But appreciate you, Justin, and we will we'll catch you next time when you hop on, hopefully with me and Kevin.
And maybe in Texas.
Maybe in Texas. That's a good
Texas.
point.
I'll see y'all at Big 12 Media Day.
Yeah, we'll definitely rip some content when we're out there, but appreciate you, my guy.
Have a great 4th of July, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, Justin. That's going to do it for us today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Make sure you throw my guy Justin a follow at Justin E Sports on Twitter. Follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And follow our account at PHNX_Wildcats for all of your news and notes regarding Arizona athletics. Appreciate you guys rocking with us on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow on a Tuesday with special guest co-host Saul Bookman, I believe in studio. So we should have Saul in studio tomorrow. Appreciate everybody for watching. And we'll catch you next time at 2 p.m. on an AZ Wildcats podcast. Until then, peace out, bear down, and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.